AVS
It was like a
Media
held
Demo.
note in a bad but powerful opera. The classroom of 24 children was silent. For the moment, she had
AVS
completely won
Media
their
Demo.
attention. It was a teacher's nirvana, however short-lived. Nice, Vivian Kim thought to herself.
AVS
There was a
Media
brittle
Demo.
tap-tap-tap on the glass pane of the classroom door. The magical mood was broken. Boo! Hiss!
AVS
Vivian Kim
Media
muttered.
Demo.
Yes? Who's there? Hello? Who is it? She called. The glass and polished mahogany door slowly
AVS
opened.
Media Demo.
One of the kids hummed from the score of Nightmare on Elm Street. Mr. Soniji, hesitantly, almost shyly stepped inside.
AVS Media Demo.
Nearly every child's face in the classroom brightened instantly. Anybody home? Mr. Soniji piped in a thin, squeaky voice.
AVS
The
Media
children erupted
Demo.
with laughter. Oh, look! Everybody's head. No way, Jose Canseco. Seriously, Mr. Soniji, this isn't fair. It isn't right. Why can't the Secret Service come here and stay till school's over? That's not the way they want to do it, Mr. Soniji said. I don't make up the rules. I guess we're ready, said Maggie. Come on, Michael, stop arguing. This is a done deal. It's a done deal, Ms. Kim offered her helpful smile. I'll send over your homework assignments. Both Maggie Rose and Michael started to laugh. Thank you, Ms. Kim, they said in unison. Leave it to Ms. Kim to have a good joke to fit the situation. The halls outside the classroom were nearly empty and very quiet. A porter, a black man named Emmett Everett, was the only person who saw the trio as they left the school building. Leaning on his broom, Mr. Everett watched Mr. Soniji and the two children walk the length of the long hallway. He was the last person to see them all together. Once outside, they hurried across the school's cobblestone parking lot, which was framed by elegant birch trees and shrubbery. Michael's shoes made clicking noises against the stones. Dork shoes, Maggie Rose leaned into him and made a joke. Look like dork shoes, act like dork shoes, sound like dork shoes. Michael had no argument. What could he say? His mother and father still bought his clothes at freaking Brooks Brothers. What am I supposed to be wearing, Miss Gloria Vanderbilt? Pink sneakers, he offered lamely. Sure, pink sneakers, Maggie beamed, or lime green air-outs, but not shoes for a funeral, shrimpster. Mr. Soniji led the children to a late-model blue van parked under elm and oak trees that went the length of the administration building and school gym. Non-synchronous, bouncing basketballs echoed from inside the gym. The two of you can jump right in back here. Upsy-daisy. There we go, he said. The teacher helped boost them up and into the back of the van. His eyeglasses kept slipping down his nose. Finally, he just took them off. You're driving us home? Michael asked. I know it's no Mercedes stretch, but it'll have to do, Sir Michael. I'm just following the instructions we got on the phone. I spoke to a Mr. Chakley. Jolly Charlie, Michael used his nickname for the Secret Service agent. Mr. Soniji climbed inside the blue van himself. He pulled the sliding doors shut with a bang. Just be a sec. Make a little room for you guys here. He rummaged through cardboard boxes stacked toward the front of the van. The van was a mess. It was the antithesis of the orderly, almost compartmentalized math teacher's style in school. Sit anywhere, kids. He kept talking while he looked for something. When he turned again, Gary Soniji was wearing a scary, rubbery-looking black mask. He held some kind of metal implement in front of his chest. It looked like a miniature fire extinguisher, only it was more sci-fi than that. Mr. Soniji? Maggie Rose asked, her voice rising in pitch. Mr. Soniji! She threw her hands in front of her face. You're frightening us. Stop kidding around. Soniji was pointing the small metal nozzle right at Maggie Rose and Michael. He took a fast step toward them. He planted both of his rubber-soled black brogans firmly. What's that thing? Michael said, not even sure why he said it. Hey, I give up. Take a whiff, boy genius. You tell me. Sinigi hit them with a blast of chloroform spray. He kept his finger on the trigger for a full 10 seconds. Both children were covered with mist as they collapsed into the back seat of the van. Out, out, bright lights, Mr. Sinigi said in the quietest, gentlest voice. Now no one will ever know. That was the beauty of it. No one would ever know the truth. Sinigi climbed into the front and fired up the blue van. As he drove from the parking area, he sang Magic Bus by The Who. He was in an awfully good mood today. He was planning to be America's first serial kidnapper, among other things. Chapter 5. I got an emergency call at the Sanders house at about 11:15. I didn't want to talk to anybody with more emergencies. I had just spent 10 minutes with the news folks. At the time of the project murders, some of the newsies were my buddies. I was a press pet. I'd even been featured in the Washington Post's Sunday magazine section. I talked about the murder rate among black people in D.C. once again. This past year, there had been nearly 500 killings in our capital. Only 18 victims were white. A couple of reporters actually made a note of that. Progress. I took the phone call from a young, smart SIT detective, Rakeem Powell. I was absently palming a bitty basketball that must have belonged to Mustaf. The ball gave me a funny feeling. Why murder a beautiful little boy like that? I couldn't come up with an answer. Not so far, anyway. It's the Jefe. The chief, Rakeem frowned. He's concerned. This is Cross, I said into the Sanders telephone. My head was still spinning. I wanted to get this conversation over with real fast. The mouthpiece smelled of cheap musk perfume. Pooh's or Suzette's fragrance, maybe both of theirs. On a table near the phone were photos of Mustaf in a heart-shaped frame. Made me think of my own 2 kids. This is Chief of Detectives Pittman. What's the situation over there? I think we have a serial killer. Mother, daughter, a little boy. Second family in less than a week. Electricity was shut off in the house. He likes to work in the dark. I ticked off a few gory details for Pittman. That was usually enough for him. The chief would leave me alone with this one. Homicides in Southeast don't count for much in the greater scheme. A beat or two of uneasy silence followed. I could see the Sanders family Christmas tree in the TV room. It had been decorated with obvious care, tinsel, shiny dime store decorations, strings of cranberries and popcorn. There was a homemade tinfoil angel on top. I heard it was the dealer got hit. Dealer and 2 prostitutes, the Jefe said. No, that's not true, I said to Pittman. They've got a nice Christmas tree up. Sure it is. Don't bullshit me, Alex. Not today. Not right now. If he was trying to get a rise out of me, he got one. One victim is a 3-year-old little boy in his pajamas. He may have been dealing. I'll check into it. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't say a lot of things. Lately I'd been feeling I was on the edge of exploding. Lately means for about 3 years or so. You and John Sampson hustle over to Washington Day, Pittman said. All hell has broken loose here. I'm serious. I'm serious too, I said to the chief of detectives. I tried to keep my voice down. I'm sure this is a signature killer. It's bad here. People are crying in the streets. It's almost Christmas. Chief Pittman ordered us to come to the school in Georgetown anyway. All hell had broken loose, he kept repeating. Before I left for Washington Day, I phoned the serial killer unit inside our own department. Then the super unit at the FBI's Quantico base. The FBI has computer files of all known cases of serial killings, complete with psychiatric profiles matching MOs up with a lot of unpublished serial killing details. I was looking for a match on age, sex, type of disfigurement. One of the techies handed me a report to sign as I left the Sanders house. I signed my usual way, with a cross. Cross. Tough guy from the tough part of town, right? Chapter 6. The private school surroundings were a little intimidating for Sampson and me. This was a long, long way from the schools and people of Southeast. We were two of only a few blacks inside the Washington Day School lobby. I'd heard there were supposed to be African kids, the children of diplomats at the private school, but I didn't see any. Just clusters of shocked teachers, children, parents, police. People were crying openly on the front lawns and inside the school's lobby. 2 little kids, 2 little babies had been kidnapped from one of Washington's most prestigious private schools. I understood that it was a sad, tragic day for everybody involved. Leave it at that, I told myself. Just do your job. We went about our police business. We tried to suppress the fury we were feeling, but it wasn't easy. I kept seeing the sad eyes of little Mustaph Sanders. A uniform told us we were wanted in the headmaster's office. Chief of Detectives Pittman was there, waiting for us. Be cool, Sampson advised. Live to fight another day. George Pittman usually wears a gray or blue business suit on the job. He favors pinstripe dress shirts and striped silver and blue neckties. He's a Johnson & Murphy shoe and belt man. His gray hair is always slicked back so it fits his bullet head like a tight helmet. He is known as the Jefe, the boss of bosses, Il Duce, the Pitts, Georgie Porgy. I think I know when my trouble with Chief of Detectives Pittman began. It was after the Washington Post ran that story on me in the Sunday magazine section. The piece detailed how I was a psychologist, but working homicide and major crimes in D.C. I had told the reporter why I continued to live in the Southeast. It makes me feel good to live where I live. Nobody's going to drive me out of my own house. Actually, I think it was the title chosen for the article that pushed Chief Pittman and some others in the department over the edge. The young journalist had interviewed my grandmother while researching the piece. Nana had been an English teacher, and the impressionable writer ate that up. Nana had proceeded to fill his head with her notion that because black people are basically traditionalists, they would logically be the very last people in the South to give up religion, morals, and even formal manners. She said that I was a true Southern man, having been born in North Carolina. She also questioned why it was that we idolized near-psychotic detectives in films, TV, books, and newspaper articles. The title of the piece, which ran over my brooding photograph, was The Last Southern Gentleman. The story caused big problems inside our very uptight department. Chief Pittman especially took offense. I couldn't prove it, but I believed the story had been placed by someone in the mayor's office. I gave a 1-2-3 rap on the door of the headmaster's office, and Sampson and I walked in. Before I could say a word, Pittman held up his right hand. "Cross, you just listen to what I have to say," he said as he came over to us. "There's been a kidnapping at this school. It's a major kidnapping. That's a real bad thing," I butted in immediately. "Unfortunately, a killer has also struck the Condon Terrace and Langley neighborhoods. The killer's hit 2 times already. 6 people are dead so far. Sampson and I are the senior people on that case. Basically, we're it. I'm apprised of the situation in the Condon and Langley projects. I've already made contingencies. It's taken care of," Pittman said. 2 black women had their breasts sliced off this morning. Their pubic hair was shaved while they were tied up in bed. Were you apprised of that? I asked him. A 3-year-old boy was murdered in his pajamas. I was shouting again. I glanced at Sampson and saw him shaking his head. A group of teachers in the office looked our way. 2 young black women had their breasts sliced off, I repeated for their benefit. Someone's wandering around D.C. this morning with breasts in his pocket. Chief Pittman gestured toward the headmaster's inner office. He wanted the 2 of us inside the room. I shook my head. I wanted to have witnesses when I was around him. "I know what you're thinking, Cross." He lowered his voice and spoke very close to my face. The odor of stale cigarettes billowed out at me. "You think I'm out to get you, but I'm not. I know you're a good cop. I know your heart's usually in the right place. No, you don't know what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. 6 black people are dead already. A crazed homicidal killer is out there. He's in heat. He's sharpening his eye teeth. Now 2 white kids have been kidnapped, and that's a horrible thing. Horrible. But I'm already on a fucking case." Pittman suddenly jabbed his index finger at me. His face was very red. "I decide what cases you're on. I decide. You're experienced as a hostage negotiator. You're a psychologist. We have other people to send into Langley and Condon. Besides, Mayor Monroe has specifically asked for you." So that was it. Now I understood everything. Our mayor had intervened.